Hi, my name is Sam. I'm the owner of Professional Fluids. Today we're going to cover how to properly check fluids, what to look for when you're checking the fluids, the indicator marks, as well as locations of the fluids, and also the identification marks on the covers or tops of the fluid that you're going to be checking. So from here, we're going to use a 2005 SUV to check the fluids on. This is pretty standard for most vehicles. The symbols they use are kind of universal across the board. The colors of the dipsticks, the colors of the caps, that type of thing. So we'll go over that, explain it, and show you how to do it properly, and that's what we're going to do. Alright, we're going to start by checking the oil. On most vehicles, the dipstick handle will be yellow. We're going to pull the dipstick out. We're going to clean it off. Look at the color of fluid is important. Should be kind of a yellowish light tan color if the fluid is good. If it's really dark or black, that's obviously something needs to be changed and taken care of. So stick it back in the dipstick tube, pull it out, and check it. And all dipsticks have usually two dots that are holes, and they have a crosshatch pattern in between. What you want is the oil to be at the top line on the dipstick. We're at the top line after the crosshatch pattern. If the oil is low, it'll either be halfway through the crosshatch or at the bottom of the crosshatch. From the bottom point to the top point of the crosshatch is 1 quart of oil. So if you find the oil is not even on the dipstick, you need to add at least 1 quart to get it on the stick, and possibly another quart to get it up through the hash marks, the crosshatch pattern. You'll find that every dipstick is set up this way. The next oil we'll check, or fluid, we'll check brake fluid. Brakes are always going to be in the back of the vehicle. The fluid will be at the rear of the vehicle on the rear panel here. We'll pop the cap. What we're basically looking for is the fluid to be at the maximum level and no lower than the minimum level. There will be a reading on here. It will say min and max, and you want the fluid to be somewhere in the middle. The fluid should be light in color, shouldn't be really dark. There's kind of a natural color of brake fluid. It should look clean, shouldn't be dirty, no sediment. It shouldn't be black in color. It should be nice and light. And that's kind of the color you're looking for brake fluid. If it's black in color or really dark, it needs to be flushed and changed and cleaned out because it can cause brake failure, brake fade, and also cause parts in the brake system to fail or go bad a lot quicker than they normally would. They can wear out faster. So that's how you check your brake fluid. Next we'll move over to engine coolant. Engine coolant is going to be labeled. This is the reservoir tank that holds the extra fluid in the vehicle. Most newer vehicles don't have a radiator cap on their radiators anymore. The radiators are tucked to hidden. You can't get to most radiators these days. So we're going to check it here. This is where you're going to fill it. This is where you're going to check it. Now, fluid, depending on the vehicle, can be green, it can be orange, it can be yellow. Could be, that's basically 3 or 4 colors you can go with, or somewhere in between. What we want to find out is what's in the vehicle currently, whether it is orange, green, what color we're dealing with here. And that will tell us what we're going to check it or put back into it. And right now, we are low on coolant on this vehicle, so we're going to check it through here. And it looks like it's more of the yellowish orange color. So this has a universal coolant in it. So we want the coolant level to be up at the cold level. This is the cold fill point, which is usually about half the size of the tank. That's about where you want your fluid level to be. This vehicle is slightly low on coolant, so we're going to have to add some coolant to this and top it off and possibly check for leaks. And like I said, the coolant reservoir will usually be stationary, mounted to the fender well of the vehicle, and sometimes it can be up front of the vehicle as well. So we want it to be about halfway point on our coolant. And then we'll check this and fill this here in a minute. Alright, so we have the vehicle running. What we're going to do is we're going to check the power steering fluid and we're going to check the transmission fluid while the vehicle's running. You always check transmission fluid and power steering fluid while the vehicle's running so you get a proper indication of where the level is when it's running and warmed up. So get the vehicle warmed up about 5-10 minutes tops, and then you can check the indicator marks on the dipsticks levels of where your fluid is, hot, not cold. So first one we're going to check is transmission fluid. The transmission fluid, a lot of vehicles now you can't check transmission fluid on. The manufacturers have made it so that they're sealed units and you can't check them. So provided your vehicle has a transmission dipstick, usually it's towards the very rear of the vehicle or at the very front of the vehicle. And what we're looking for is usually going to be a yellow or red dipstick that will say usually transmission fluid, and it will also say what kind and brand you need to use in your vehicle. So we're going to pull the dipstick out. We're going to first clean it off so we know where the starting point is. Look at the fluid color. This is semi-acceptable. We want it to be as red as possible. The more red the fluid is, the newer and the fresher and the better protection it's going to give you for your fluid, for your transmission. So let's stick it in the back of the dipstick tube. We're going to pull it out and we're going to check it. And what we're looking for is same as the oil. There's going to be a crosshatch pattern on the dipstick. Now running and warm, you want the transmission fluid to be at the very top level of that crosshatch pattern. Now in general, there is around a half, it varies from vehicle to vehicle, but usually it's around a half quart to a full quart between the bottom of the hash mark and the top of the hash mark. We always start by adding a half a quart at a time and then rechecking. This vehicle is properly filled at this point in time. If you find there's no fluid on the stick, the dipstick, you'll also find that usually the vehicle won't shift properly. It obviously has leaks somewhere and needs to be addressed right away. Most power steering fluid reservoirs are now remotely located. The power steering pump will be down somewhere in the engine that you usually can't see, but the reservoir will be up top so that you can access it and put fluid in. And a lot of the manufacturers put a picture of a steering wheel so they can tell you that this is a power steering fluid. And there's cautionary notes to read for your owner's manual, tells you where the minimum maximum points are on here. So what we're going to do now is this vehicle does not have a dipstick. So it makes it much more difficult to check. So what we're looking for is on the side of the container, there is a minimum and a maximum. So what we're going to do is look inside, and while the vehicle's running, make sure that we're somewhere around this area with the vehicle running and warm. If we're low, we need to add it to it, top it off, and then verify where the leaks are. Because if there's a leak and this thing is low, there's a leak somewhere in the system. We need to find out where it went to and what's causing the leak. Because there should be no leaks on any fluids on a vehicle. If they're ever low, that means it leaked out somewhere. You need to find out where it went to. It's very important. So that's the proper way to check your power steering fluid. You also want this fluid to be clean and look good. And this could definitely use a flush and power steering flush to get this old fluid out of here. There's approximately 80,000 on this vehicle, mileage-wise, and it's probably the original fluid. So we want this to be either bright red from either using automatic transmission fluid, which is acceptable for a lot of power steering systems, or actual power steering fluid, whichever is required or requested by your manufacturer, which you have to check your owner's manual for that. So that's how to properly check your power steering fluid. Now we'll move into how to properly fill them and possibly what fluids would be used in the vehicle.